afternoon, everybody. My name's Layla, and I've been in the UAE for 6 years. I'm a vice principal in Abu Dhabi, and I've been doing my doctorate work on effective teaching in Abu Dhabi. So I have a case study of effective teaching in a combined school in Abu Dhabi. So this is my fifth year of my research here that hopefully I'm going to try and cram into 30 minutes for you all. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that. If you feel I'm waffling, please feel free to keep nudging me along. Okay, so the overview, what I'm planning to look over with you guys is the history of the UAE, which is quite important because it will make sense of when I discuss the effective teaching in Abu Dhabi. Look over the literature review, methodology, my key findings and recommendations and conclusions. So far I've completed my research and I'm hoping to have my Viva soon. So this will be a good practice for you all to give me some feedback as well at the same time. Okay, so looking at the history of the UAE. So early 19th century, we had British intervention. From their involvement, we basically moved into the pre-oil era, 1950s. Before that, it was very much the UAE was very much a Bedouin tribal country where there was limited sort of healthcare service, education system until the discovery of oil, which is from the 1958 onwards. From 1971, the Sheikh Zayed, the late Sheikh Zayed, who was the main leader of putting the seven states together, which is Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Ajman, Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah, and Al Quwain. So all of them basically became the UAE. From that, after the sort of the oil, we've got then the latest technology taking over. We have the education system, and this is kind of giving you an overview of what the present day global hub is for the good old story of rags to riches. Before I move on to that, I want to just talk a little bit about the Abu Dhabi Education and Knowledge Regulatory Authority. So this is ADEC. This is equivalent to Ofsted in the UK. And ADEC is very much influenced, has been influenced by the UK Ofsted system and the US American system as well. Apart from that, ADEC has also have a lot of influence from the national vision, which aligns with the 2071 Centennial Vision 2031. Which is basically making sure that they align with internationally or the global competitiveness of TIMSS, PEARLS, all these international assessments. Furthermore, ADEC is also closely aligned with the educational theorists, which I've been looking at lately, which is Strong's, Hattie's work, Schulman's work. And then, of course, they've got UNESCO's policies, including globalized education. So they have been working excessively hard. Bear in mind, from like 70 onwards, they've tried to put in their education system together. The aims and research of my questions. So it's an interpretivist case study exploring how teachers and leaders in a rural American curriculum school in Abu Dhabi perceive effective teaching, aiming to develop a practical framework to support school improvement and shared understanding across similar UAE contexts. My research questions for this study was, how do teachers and the senior leadership team in an English-speaking rural secondary school in Abu Dhabi conceptualize effective teaching? What specific skills and strategies do teachers and the senior leadership team identify as essential for effective teaching? And the last one, what mechanisms are currently in place within the within the school to ensure consistency in teaching practices and to enhance the effectiveness of teaching? So before I move on to that, I just want to talk about why did I choose effective teaching? So there was several reasons for that. The first and foremost, was the reason was I had an amazing school teacher. Her name was Mrs. Francis, and I remember very well wanting to spend a lot of time at break time, lunch times, going into her lessons, because that was the only teacher I felt understood me. She seemed caring, she seemed supportive. She was always wanting to go out of her way to support me in my topic at the time, which I was struggling with. That was one of my main reasons. What was it about her that made me want to study, but not any other subject? A turning point for me. So I did go into teaching because of her, but apart from that, it was still very much 1990s. So I was very much a passive sort of learner in didactic classrooms. And the professional turning point was when the first school I went to, I think the Ofsted rated them as, I think, weak. And the head teacher sent me to Florida to attend a Kagan cooperative learning training. And it was just amazing because before that, all I was doing and everybody else at school was PPTs. I think we just about thought PowerPoints were amazing, and that's as far as we got. So when I attended this course, I thought, wow, is this teaching? Is this really what we do? After that, I moved to Abu Dhabi, and that was 2020, COVID struck, which was a huge shock to the system because previously to that, I was lecturing at Manchester Met, and I thought, do you know what? I want to just change. I want to go have a change of scenery. And I thought going to the UAE is going to be amazing. It's going to be a breeze in the park. I'll be at the beach, but far from it. It was a very exciting and interesting experience for me because as soon as I got there, I realized that it's a multicultural sort of school. I had staff coming and going from there. It was multilingual, and there was so much that needed sort of to be changed, to be done. And because of the experience I had, everything else, it was great. It was a great challenge for me. And on top of that, the school also got acceptable, was rated by ADEC as acceptable. So all of these reasons kind of made me want to go into study in what is effective teaching. So it comes back to the literature. So when I started looking into literature, I thought I can't find anything. And then the next thing I know, I was probably doing 50, 60,000 words on effective teaching. There was so much that I just kind of got totally bamboozled with how much information is actually out there. And what really confused me, and I found just, really frustrating was I was just specifically looking for one definition. I wanted one definition of effective teaching so that I could base my work around that. And I couldn't find one. So the first thing I wanted to do was look into what is this idea of effective teaching? Is there just one idea or is there multiple ideas? So that was my first part. And then after that, once I started my literature review, I started sort of collecting more relevant information. And the key themes that kept coming up in all of my journals I was reading was looking at the developing the teacher expertise. And then the next most important part was looking at student engagement and learning. And then, interestingly, student attainment, although in schools is always a priority, came up as like at the bottom. And then my final point we're looking at was how do we support these teachers? So we've got struggling teachers. We're looking at that we've got weak effective teaching. So what do we do? Do we just fire them or what do we do? So to me, that was really interesting to see how can we actually support them rather than keep, getting rid of a teacher and bringing on a new teacher. How about we support them and how are we supporting them? So my literature review was primarily based around Hattie 2023, Schulman's work 2005, and Strong's 2018 work. Strong, he provided a structured and practical model of teacher effectiveness. Schulman introduced the concept of pedagogical content knowledge. And Hattie offered a robust evidence-based insight through meta-analysis on high-impact strategies like feedback and scaffolding. So I found these three people to be kind of the first key theorists, which I looked into, and then from there I moved on. Now, again, there was problems because when I looked into all of these, I'm just flicking through my pages here, I found there was quite a lot of critiques as well. So although this was great, what I found was because for instance, let's have a look. Critique. Let's have a look. Hattie's evidence-based work. It was critiqued by, I think, where am I looking now? Okay, so while Hattie's emphasis was data-driven strategies, Shulman stressed effective teaching requires a deeper understanding of both subject matter and pedagogy. Critics thought that Shulman's model lacked attention to the emotional and relational aspect. Hattie's work was very much quantitative based, and Strong's work they thought was very much sort of broad, too broad. So because of these, I thought, well, what else could I include? And then I realized, which I hadn't come across and I hadn't spent much time on, was looking at cultural responsive teaching. So I focused a bit more on cultural responsive teaching because this was really important, looking at the students, the culture that they was in, looking at the diverse learning needs, understanding their needs, and looking at the social emotional learning elements, which I didn't really prioritize much at all because I was focusing so much on what are the teaching qualities that I didn't actually look at the other aspect to it. So I incorporated all of the following and came up with my own definition of effective teaching. Now, the problem I had was because there was no one concrete definition, there was a narrow approach and there was a broader approach. So I went with the broader approach because I found that this incorporated sort of social emotional learning, cognitive development as well. And it provided a holistic overview. So I went with a broader approach for effective teaching. And based on my literature review, I came up with the definition of the integration of teachers' knowledge, attributes, classroom processes and practices that address students' learning needs and attainment, fostering an inclusive and supportive learning environment. And to me, after looking at all of that research, I thought it reminded me of a beautiful watch where everything is interconnected here. So just like a watch has its own little components, I thought effective teaching also relies not just on one, not just on the teacher, but it's an amalgamation of many components. And it's the thoughtful integration of these multiple elements that I thought can help have this perfect definition for effective teaching. And of course, effective teaching means, what is effective teaching for one person or one school or one context isn't necessarily mean it will be effective teaching. That definition will fit the other. So to me, this is something that is a process and it can be changed and it has to be changed. It shouldn't be sort of concrete because depending on your school, your context you're in. So the methodology I adopted was a constructivist epistemology and relativist ontology, recognizing the knowledge is co-constructed and that multiple realities exist. Qualitative case study was used for my research design, and this informed my interpretivist approach using the Diamond 9 ranking task, semi-structured interviews and thematic analysis. This helped to explore the diverse teacher perspectives on effective teaching. So I actually first thought, should I have a lot more teachers to support my study? And it ended up being that out of the 40 teachers, 10 participants came forward, but it actually worked out perfect because I realized how much work goes into interviewing just one teacher alone. So if I had 40, I probably would have been bombarded with too much data and it probably wouldn't have been as valid. So, of course, the confidentiality and anonymity was following the BERA 2024 guidelines. So this was my data collection. What I first of all did was participants completed an effective teaching paradigm. So from there, participants had to rank a Diamond 9 task in order. Participants explained what each trait, why they chose the traits, and then they were interviewed. And then at the end, they had the debriefing and a survey to complete. So these were all the the traits I put forward for the teachers to select, and they had to select 9. Now, I didn't have the student engagement, I didn't have the headings. This is just for clarity to say what they come under, because I wanted them to choose what they thought was most important. So when I did a pilot study, they ended up just ticking everything. And then so I had to limit them and say, well, you need to choose 9, and then you had to decide why you chose those 9 qualities that makes an effective teacher. So this was the Diamond ranking. This is just a sample of what they did. Once they selected what they thought was most appropriate for an effective teacher, they then had to explain why they chose that. So this is just showing the sample I had. Findings, so what was the most important? So for instance, teacher knowledge ended up having the highest frequency, which is the main thing, which I thought would be the most popular anyway. And from that, they thought good questioning skills, promoting critical thinking through inquiry and problem solving and reflection. From student engagement, most teachers thought encouraging students to take a responsible and conscientious attitude to their own work and study. And then student attainment, making use of formative and summative assessments to secure students' progress. So these were the most popular ones that the students had selected from the Diamond 9. This is just some of the other interesting facts I found from the Diamond 9. For instance, novice teachers prioritize classroom control and planning, and experienced teachers focus more on deeper reflection. Male teachers lean towards student outcomes, while female teachers emphasize teacher knowledge. Main thing was overall results showed no single definition of effective teaching, but was rather context driven in interpretation. Second part of my findings was the interviews, which was really interesting because at first I was a bit worried because I'm also a VP and I was researching, I was interviewing them. So I was aware of that, of the subjective perspective to that. And they had a choice whether they wanted to be interviewed by someone else or by myself. And they chose to be interviewed by me. And I am the teaching and learning coordinator as well. So I had to take that into consideration. From the interviews, the three themes that came up was unveiling effective education, a blend of teacher-led instruction. Theme 2, unlocking effectiveness, the impact of initial teacher training and ongoing professional development. And then theme 3 was organizational abilities to improve effectiveness. So these are the three main themes that came out of it. So the recommendations from the themes that we came up with, it was really interesting because a lot of people focus more on the professional development. This was really interesting. So everyone felt that what they wanted was more high quality professional development. But when I say more, at the same time, less, because they didn't want just regular professional development, which really didn't support them. But so what they wanted was something high quality, and then follow-ups to make sure that they're learning from it and that they've can actually follow it through. So most of them focused on this. What was interesting was that even though attainment is so important to teachers, and all of like MAP testing, CAT testing, all of this, TIMSS, PISA, no one focused on the results, which was really interesting because I thought surely an effective teacher or a good teacher is someone who has great results, but no one focused on that, which was really interesting. That came nowhere near. In fact, it came very low down on the ranking in comparison to what I thought. So recommendations was develop to share understanding. The first thing I wanted to recommend in my dissertation was that there was no shared understanding of what is an effective teaching, which was interesting because when I emailed ADEC and I said, I see that you say we need to improve effective teaching. Can you explain that to me? And they couldn't actually give me. And they said, can you just refer back to your framework? And I said, well, the framework's not very clear. It's very ambiguous. So can you please give me a better understanding of what exactly do you want from effective teaching so we can focus on it? And I didn't hear back from them. So, and what was also interesting was effective teaching between the SLT and the teachers. No one had a clear definition. Someone was based on, let's say, on results. Someone's was based on making sure the lesson was fun. So to me, the first thing I thought a school should do, regardless of which country it's in, is actually share what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want to achieve? I have this ongoing dialogue. A lot of the teachers felt that they needed more support and they needed to be part of the process rather than the senior leadership team saying, right, here you go, guys, this is what you need to do. Here's your CPD, go ahead and do it. They wanted to be part of that dialogue and they wanted to be able to support in the decision making. And that would have probably influenced them more and motivated them more to follow up themselves as well, because it's part of their decision making. I think the other thing they also felt was because you've got teachers coming from different countries, you've got like the Middle East countries, you had USA, where you had Africa, you had the UK. I think everyone came in with different teaching programs and teacher training and qualifications. And what I found was that everyone needs to have, and I know in the UAE they've now started that, is where regardless where you come from, you have to sit now like a teacher training, a basic foundation course where so that everyone's on one level. At the moment, it's sort of in the very basic foundation levels. And I know in our school there was like a completely different from someone from Egypt, someone was from, let's say, I think South Africa, someone from the UK, and they all had different knowledge backgrounds, but they were delivering the same curriculum, which I think was also another problem they had. Student-centered, again, focusing a bit more on student-centered learning. So it was very much didactic, teacher-led instruction. So it was trying to get that synergy of between giving students the voice as well as the teachers. So it was training them a bit more for that. A lot more was on reflective practice, that teachers wanted more time to be able to reflect, having more time for their own personal growth. Mentorship and coaching was very much labeled negatively. So if someone was put on a program, it was seen as they're like ineffective, and it was seen as an embarrassment, and it was look, the teachers would start looking for jobs elsewhere. So again, it's taking away that labeling and giving them that more support. My research question 3 was looking at what support is available for teachers who are struggling. So this was really interesting because even though they said they had an open door policy, they said they did lesson evaluations to support them, they had performance appraisal, the teachers saw this all as negative, and it wasn't an open door policy, and it wasn't, performance appraisals to support you. This was all about, okay, so if you don't hit this grade, then we need to kind of reconsider and end your contract. So they wanted more support, well-being, social emotional support, better communication, but more importantly for anything else. So conclusion, the study explored how teachers and leaders in Abu Dhabi define effective teaching, highlighting both shared values and cultural differences. A 5-domain practitioner-informed framework was developed to support the UAE educational goals, looking at student-centered approaches, PCK, adaptability and resilience, collaborative professional development, and institutional support and teacher well-being. This one, the last one came up actually, a lot of them discussed the teacher well-being. Again, not knowing the boundaries of contacting teachers after school, having WhatsApp groups, and this is a norm where it's like emails. So they found all of this was actually affecting their well-being quite a bit. The framework builds on a shared language for effective teaching and promotes consistency and alignment. Key barriers include high staff turnover, limited cultural integration, and communication gaps. Practical solutions I found was mentoring for new staff, contextualized training, and structured feedback systems. What does the study contribute? It offered an evidence-based framework for internationalized UAE schools, showing how co-constructed understanding boosts morale and teaching quality. And for me personally, the research influenced school improvement initiatives, mentoring, PD design, and I also was involved with ADEC. So they were really excited about what I had found and how we could support our program in ADEC for other schools to come along and join as well. So future steps, scale the model across Abu Dhabi. I know what I found was one school, and most of the schools in that vicinity had similar issues, similar problems. Of course, you've got expats coming, or most of the students, 90% are Emiratis. And so I thought that this could actually work with all the other schools around, inform the MOE and ADEC, and support teacher retention. Overall, this research advances a contextual and inclusive vision of effective teaching in a multicultural setting.